Welcome to Socializing Security, where every week we have a discussion about security, compliance, and beyond.
Our goal is to learn and grow by socializing each week's topic with each other, our guests, and with you.
A quick compliance note, this podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal or regulatory advice.
We're glad you've joined us, and we hope you'll learn along with us.
Well, Cameron, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself while we're waiting for Alexandra to join us?
Of course, of course. Hello, I'm so excited to chat and get into it. I am a lawyer, I'm a creator, and I am a tech founder. I feel like my content creation journey is absolutely non-traditional. So I'm excited to chat with the others to talk about how we utilize our JD, whether it's getting clients on social media or just immersing ourselves in the creator economy as influencers.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll go next again for, I think most of y'all know who I am, but I'm Mila Lammers, and you can find me at Compliance Council. I have really actually pushed myself I am a content creator. I have a podcast that Brian and I have been doing for over 2 years. I have no issues sharing videos about what it's like to be a day in the life of the compliance officer. I have pushed myself a little bit of extending my comfort zone of recent, where I've been trying to jump on some more trends and stuff. And I've actually been going live on TikTok a lot. And so that's been like a new experience for me as a content creator of figuring out what it's like to be with a live interactive audience. I like it a lot. It pushes me to be doing some like real-time stuff. Again, the internet is icky sometimes for sure. I think as a woman, like creating content, sometimes the messages I'm getting and stuff, especially on a live thing, are really gross. That part I love less about it. But I will say I do love, I've helped in recent, I've actually made a friend through like she's been interacting with live. She's thinking about wanting to go to law school. And so she's been messaging me on LinkedIn, and she jumped in once. I think we had like an hour session where she was asking about like what it's like to get a job in compliance. And, she's sending me different JD programs. Her name is Daisha. And so she jumps in on most of my lives and, comments. And I'm so grateful, actually. It's like this unique, like kind of mentorship opportunity that's opened, which is really cool. And so that's somebody I met on live. And so, those are some of the unique things. But yeah, I usually do TikTok lives in ways that I'm like literally like in my pajamas, like making breakfast or something. It's like a really like not me in like a professional setting. And I'm doing that also to like kind of end some of the, I don't know, the like barrier. I think when I tell people, I usually don't actually lead with the fact that I happen to be a lawyer. Most people find that out about me later. I'm not sure why I hold that card. I think if you tell people you're an attorney, you usually do get like a specific face. You get kind of like so yeah, I think that's a little bit about me. But yeah, so y'all can find me again. I post most of my content on TikTok as well as Instagram and YouTube. I have fun with it. I was a trained photographer in college, and so for me, I'm not totally surprised I ended up in this arc. It's just like I never thought I was going to be the content.
So I'm Alex Mack. I started my career in litigation. I absolutely hated it. And then I recently, like within the last year and a half, transitioned into compliance, which I love. But kind of in the meantime was when I started posting on social media. It was actually right after I had my daughter about 5 years ago. It was like 2020, and the Johnny Depp trial was going on, and I was craving some like human interaction, not baby interaction. And so I started just talking about the Johnny Depp trial because I was just so into it. And that's how I initially started posting. I post most of my content on TikTok, mainly because I don't want people I know to see my content. I just feel weird about it still. So TikTok feels a little more anonymous to me than Instagram. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Cool. And I'm Brian Knudsen. I am not a lawyer,
He's outnumbered
not
at the moment.
not really a content creator, at least not in the way that the three of you are. So I get to moderate instead. But I have been influencer in social media in small communities in the past. To Milu's point, it's kind of icky these days, and so I've kind of pulled back considerably. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation to see how you all kind of view it, and maybe I don't know, maybe try to convince me to do more of it besides just the podcast.
Ooh, I like this.
Putting a challenge out there from the beginning. Cool. Well, let's just kind of dive in. We've all kind of heard from all of you and kind of where you are. Um, do we have the video clips ready to go?
We don't.
Okay.
We're gonna share those out. We'll send those in a blast as our we're gonna send everybody's bios, and then we're gonna definitely share some of the videos that we have. For Cameron and Alex and I kind of pick ones that were good examples of like, hey, and again, y'all, if for me, I don't know if y'all do the same thing, but when I post on TikTok, I also post for my like other friends that are terrified of TikTok that are on Reels like 30 days later. So I don't know if y'all do the same, but for the most part, I think you're usually kind of the same place.
Yeah. So if you're watching a recorded version of this, we'll play that right now. Okay, welcome back. So let's just kind of start off. I guess we'll start with you, Cameron. And why did you decide to start posting stuff? I guess Alex, you kind of already talked about why you started posting stuff, but Cameron, why don't you talk about that a little bit in your experience?
Yeah, so I won't give y'all the long, boring story, but I was in college and I started YouTube in 2014. I was watching the other beauty gurus at the time, and I was like, well, people are asking me about my hair and makeup. Let me just start creating content. Mind you, if you go find those videos because they're still up, I absolutely understand I didn't know what I was doing, but I was having fun doing it anyways. I just needed a creative outlet. I also was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in college. I had no idea what I wanted to major in. So simultaneously, also during this time, I was talking to my advisor, who was a lawyer, and he was like, well, you should just go to a mock trial class. I think you would like it. And I'm like, I hate school. Please don't make me go to law school, please. I went to mock trial. Of course, I fell in love with it. To me, it was very similar to, it was very creative to me. It gave me that same feeling I got when I was a child, like being a theater kid in the courtroom, because I always liked education. I liked reading. I liked writing. I just didn't see myself as a lawyer. But yeah, he opened my eyes to that, and I still was creating content on YouTube at the time as well. And then my content shifted once I got into law school to more like behind the scenes of being a law student. So I shared that, I vlogged that experience. So I kind of have just brought my community along the journey, really focusing on lifestyle content and sharing any educational tips and value that I can bring along the way.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a common thread is just I wasn't taking it seriously at first, so I just did it. And please don't
Yep.
go back and look at them because they were really rough, and we all learned along the way. You want to
Exactly.
talk about yours?
Sure. I mean, mine again. So, when I was studying at Middlebury in college, I actually was a photography minor, and so, I was kind of my best friend's worst nightmare in the sense that like I did an expose on Snapchat. So Snapchat to me, it's funny. It's not one that you hear in the news very often. Snapchat is forever. Like Snapchat was forever when it started. Snapchat is forever. The platform was intended, and you and I've gone back and forth about Snapchat actually on a recent episode, but to me, from a risk perspective, Snapchat is actually one of the riskiest because those, like, from the outset, they've always said we're going to keep your things. And, like, that's what their whole platform is built on. And so I had this really fun thing where I gathered all of these snaps of like my most embarrassing moments from my friends. And, like, people were sending me and they knew that I was doing this thing. And I literally plastered them all over the college art, like, building. And this was really before this was like in the rise of social media, but like photos of my friends that like now we would be like, oh my god, is that picture still there? And like, so yeah, we did this expose, and that was kind of for me when I was like, oh, I love doing this, but I do care about privacy. And again, all of these friends, they consented to all of this information. It does still live on. And so for me, again, I mean, I don't know, I do it for fun. For me, it's like a creative outlet to just like create content. And I'm realizing the education part of it is hugely important to me. I just had a really hard time getting a job out of law school, actually, because I knew I wanted to go into compliance and because I decided to move right when I graduated. So, this concept of me as a professional, I've always been talking about how to get a job in compliance. And so now to have this, new platform where I'm engaging with a lot of young people, especially on the link, like on the TikTok lives, it's definitely a younger audience. And again, they're definitely asking really pointed questions about, how do I get a job in compliance? What is the type of background I need? Do I have to go to law school? And I'm having these really interactive conversations. And then I have started, again, what I do like for content creation is not really for lead generation at all. Like I view this as really like compliance counsel kind of as like, just a creative outlet, not really as like, oh, I'm going to get leads through this. But I will say I did recently have a company like reach out to me being like, hey, we found you because we saw you on TikTok creating content of like a day in the life in the compliance officer. So like there is a path for that.
Hmm. Yeah. Again, wanting a creative outlet seems to be a common thread here. Um, I like the kind of started it because of creativity, but stayed with it because of education. Is what I heard from you. Um, so obviously there's an evolution. We talked about improving the content over time as well. Um, so I guess maybe I'll ask all three of you, what has that evolution looked like for you? Like, have you been thoughtful about it? Have you purposefully made changes, or is it just, hey, I learned this thing and I added this to my repertoire in the way that I do things, or I added this new piece of equipment that helped out there? I guess, Milo, I'll start with you. What has that looked like as you've gone through it?
Oh, I mean, it evolves so much, right? Like even the type of content that like if I like me 2 years ago, if I would see like photos of me like dancing on the internet, I'd be like, no. I'd be like, girl, and I'll be the first to say like I'm in a unique phase right now. I'm
Should
kind
we
of in.
should we talk about the one you posted this week
What did I post this
when
week?
you were sick?
Oh yes, when I was like really ill. Yeah, for sure. Also, I think that's important though, as a founder, to show that like I don't get sick days. It was actually really nice. I had somebody reach out being like, hey, I saw that you're sick. Are you feeling okay? And I'm like, oh my God, the only way they knew that was because they saw my TikTok video. Like I think it creates this like interesting like persona. I do think again it's also trying to break down like I want people to realize like I am human and I also am making mistakes on the internet. Like, there's things like my risk tolerance has definitely shifted and I'm more open to being more myself than I would have been a couple years ago because of XYZ. Like, oh, I'm concerned about being certain amount of professional and like what the thing is like what most of my clients have no clue that I'm creating content on TikTok. I think a lot of people that follow me on LinkedIn, they know it because I push it on LinkedIn occasionally. Like if it's more of a professional video, I'll just go ahead and put it on LinkedIn. I get really, really great engagement on LinkedIn. And that's really my main platform. And I'll be the first to always say that on TikTok too, that I'm like, hey, my main platform is LinkedIn. It's where I've gotten my first clients. It's actually the professional space. Also, my clients are sitting on LinkedIn all day. So they're probably not sitting on TikTok, but they are watching my TikTok videos on LinkedIn. And a lot of them like find it fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it like
There's a need for that.
yeah, no, for sure. There's like this like I mean it's a great untapped platform for content creators if they're really trying to do more professional space. I think posting your content that you're posting on LinkedIn or TikTok or YouTube and actually resharing it onto LinkedIn it does really well.
Yeah.
My videos perform significantly better than when I'm actually posting just a text only content on LinkedIn.
Yeah, totally. So Alex, you started off doing very pop culture-y things during a time when everybody was trying to create as much video content as possible. So how's it gone for you since?
I left out my actual start though.
Oh, okay.
So similar to Cameron, oh my gosh, right after I got out of law school, like back in 2013, it was when blogs were so big, and I started my own little fashion blog about workwear, what I would wear to the office.
Nice.
And it was like literally just like what Cameron said, like the ladies at my office would be like, oh, I love your outfit. And I was like, there's girls posting their outfits on Instagram. Why can't I do that? And please don't go look up any of those. But it evolved. It's been such an evolution from there, but that was really like getting my feet in the door. And then I kind of realized that was not the space for me, but I was so interested in the blogging and content creation and influencer space in general that I felt like that was really just the best way to learn it. It was to immerse myself and figure it out on my own. And so, fast forward like 5 years after that, I wasn't really doing my blog anymore, but I was ready to leave litigation. And I actually went and worked at a talent management agency that was managing influencers. And that was a really interesting transition for me because I got to learn that industry from the backside. And I was the one negotiating the deals. And obviously I had contract experience, so I was very comfortable reviewing the contracts for the influencers and it was great. But then I also kind of realized this still really isn't what I want to do. And I kind of transitioned back into law, went in-house. But then that was around the time that I started creating the content about Johnny Depp and all of that stuff. And then I kind of realized that's the content I like creating. The more educational pieces, something that I actually have to talk about instead of, just showing my outfit, because there's nothing special about my outfits, like it's
They're
a black
pretty
sweater.
amazing. I will
Anyone
say
can
I've
post
watched.
that.
I love your fashion content. You keep
Well,
up
thank
for
you.
sure.
But I do feel like I can contribute when I'm talking about legal problems. Or another area I really like talking about is, should you go to law school? Because I feel so passionately about it just based on my own experience. I went to law school not because I wanted to be an attorney. I actually, at the time, thought I wanted to be a sports agent. And if you're seeing a trend here that I have no idea what I want to do, you're catching on. Um, but then when I was in law school, I was kind of outside of the sports realm and started spinning my wheels again. But what really resonated with me was I came out of law school with a crap ton of student loans. And I felt like I was basically handcuffed to a litigation job in big law just because I needed to pay off those loans. And I don't want anyone to be in that position that I was in. And so that it kind of prompted me to start talking about, well, should you go to law school? Like, these are the things that I think you guys should think about if you're considering it. And this is what it really looks like. So the evolution from me going and posting outfits to posting more substantive content that people can actually take something away from, um, I think has been a positive evolution for me. And I've realized that is really what I like doing more, and there's more value to it. And that's when I've seen more growth in my social media from the topics that are more knowledgeable for people. And I get comments all the time, asking, well, do you think I should go to law school? This is what I'm interested in. Or, Lou, like you were saying, I really want a job in compliance. How do I find a job in compliance? And I like creating content where I feel like I can actually do something to help someone.
Yeah. Cameron?
I love that there's so much overlap in all of our stories. I love that. I feel like that's the beauty of being online is like you can shapeshift. Also the beauty of having a JD, like you can also shapeshift. And I feel like I really didn't understand that until I became an entrepreneur. So I also started in litigation. I was an employment litigator. And I quickly realized I didn't like it. I never will forget looking around the office and I was like, oh, this can't be it. So I was trying to find a way to kind of marry my two passions, being a creator and also loving the law, but like I couldn't really see that. But throughout that time I didn't realize I was educating myself on what I could build. So I was doing contracts for myself, I was managing myself, I was helping my friends doing their contracts and managing them. And then I had somebody that wasn't a friend say, how much do you charge? And I was like, oh, I should have been charging people. So that's kind of what elevated me and changed like the trajectory of where I was going with my career. And that had led me to build my consulting firm. So I own a legal consulting firm, and that has transitioned into a tech company because we want to scale quickly. We want to use software, and everybody know AI is here to stay. So I was like, let me dip my toe in and use it. But even with that, like the evolution of different platforms, like I started on YouTube, and then like Alex mentioned like blogs, like, and then now we have TikTok, and then there's LinkedIn. There's so many different platforms. So being able to pivot and shift is one of those the beauty of being in the industry, but also sometimes the annoying part, because one thing about these platforms is they're gonna change all the time. So we have to be adaptable.
Yeah, totally. So I'll admit to a little bit of imposter syndrome sitting with the three of you, being lawyers and being out there and creating this content.
Brian, we have a podcast. We literally create content every week. Like, what's
But that's just you and me.
No, it's not, because I will say this will be a fun preview for folks that are tuning in, but we have graciously asked not only for folks that are panelists today joining us at the HERS conference to actually, again, continue to donate their time and socialize with us on the podcast and individual sessions where we will actually get to do a full review on what everything Cameron is working on. And again, Alex I'm so excited to have another compliance attorney on the podcast. So again, we'll be doing sessions with folks after this, so we'll continue to socialize on these things. But Brian, you are a content creator. I need you to
Yes.
be just like you wear that hat. We do this every week, and we've done it. We have over 85 episodes.
Yes, as we record this.
And
Yeah.
a podcast is no small feat, Brian.
Yes,
The editing of
No.
that alone is
Oh,
a lot.
don't get us started on that one. Definitely feel the pain of that one. Especially being we're doing video as much as we're doing audio too, so it's the cutting is not as easy. But ultimately, I wanted to get to the question of you're lawyers, and to Milu's point, you may not lead with it, but it's always going to be there, and it's something you should be proud of, because that's way more school than I was ever going to take. And so I guess I want to kind of understand that as you are putting yourselves out there in that way, as JDs, as lawyers, how do you, I guess, what is the response you tend to get, and how do you deal with the potential responses of, oh, you're one of those people? And Alex, I'll
I've
start with
gotten
you.
a lot of comments like, I would never want you to be my lawyer.
Wow.
But it's usually when they're not agreeing with the subject matter I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, naturally.
Anything political, it's not going to go well. I've
There's always
realized
that. Yeah, and I guess that I'll mix that into the question actually too, is like, how do you go about picking the content that you're willing to tackle, both as a lawyer and as a human being, with the political piece mixed into that, and trying to make it so that, I guess, you kind of help your profession along a little bit, like showing people that, like, yeah, lawyers are humans and we have all the same stupid stuff that you have to deal with. So yeah, like, I guess go a little bit deeper into that, Alex, about how you've gotten that feedback. Has that changed the way that you've approached your content?
Sometimes it does. Because especially the first time you get your TikTok or your video ends up on the wrong side of TikTok, and you have all these people coming at you, and it's like, whoa, like it is really a trip, and it can really start to affect you when they're saying all these like negative things. But I try and put it in perspective, and 9 times out of 10, if I click the person, it's some bot profile
Yeah.
that, like these aren't real people. So I try not to let it influence me, but I know, and I knew from the beginning, if I post something that's political, this is just the world we live in now. It's going to end up on people's pages who don't agree and don't want to listen and don't want to hear the other side. And it is what it is. And for a long time, that kept me from posting anything political. And I still hesitate a lot. It kind of, and sometimes I'll post something political, and then, other things happen, and I'm like, I don't think I can handle what this video could end up doing. I don't want to deal with the comments and the pushback. And that's just still territory I'm trying to navigate. And I think that is one of the things that I do personally struggle with is, where do I draw the line? What do I want to post about? And how do I create boundaries? It's hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. Cameron, how about for you?
I can say a lot on this. Oh, where do I begin? So the first thing I always remember, like a few years ago, a creator was having so many problems with this, and she said something that I always remember is, think about your social media platforms like your house. If someone came over to your home and you just bought a new couch that you love, and they're like, "Oh, I hate that couch," well, they can sit on the floor or they can leave, right? Like you wouldn't go sell your couch because one person was like, "I don't like your couch." So I think about my social media platforms like my house, and bippity boppity blocked. I will block you. It's perfectly fine. Blocked, mute, delete, you gotta go. You're not gonna ruin my environment and my community. That's the first thing. The next thing I think about is when I decide to post about something or talk about a topic, I either put it in a category of, I don't want any feedback, therefore I'm not gonna post it, or I'm open to feedback so then I can share it during the journey, or I want to be through the situation so that I can reflect back so that I'm comfortable with the feedback. So I kind of fit the content in those categories so that I'm comfortable and I can handle the feedback, because at the end of the day, like, people are going to say stuff. You're going to have to deal with like the pros and the cons. So I want to make sure that I'm in a position where I can handle the naysayers, the yay sayers, etc. And then the last thing is I think about if I'm interviewing, which I'm not, I feel like I'm an entrepreneur to my heart and to my core forever, Lord willing. But if I go into an environment and they post my content, like say it's on, I don't know, a PowerPoint or something, how would I feel about it? And that also helps guide me with what I feel comfortable with sharing, that I need to be comfortable with explaining it. I'm standing 10 toes down on it. I said what I said, I mean what I said, but also giving myself grace that I can change my mind and people may not understand that. And it's like, well, again, it's my house and I live here. So
Yeah. Yeah. You can paint the walls if you decide that you want it to be different. And
period.
that has definitely been a through line for the internet and the entire time I've been on it, which is that God forbid you change your mind and
I know.
let people know that you changed your mind, and they're going to hold you to that initial thought that you always had. And yeah, the internet's a weird place and always has been. How about for you?
I think for me, I think if we're thinking about just like how you show up, I think again, for me, I really try to do this to like bring a bit of like a human element to this. Cause again, like I'm doing things that I scare myself on a regular basis. To like be a founder and to suddenly like be fully on my own is like a scary thing. And so I think I'm also just trying to like, again, have some type of outlet and also stand up a little bit for the fact that like one, I'm so over people when they automatically hear that I'm a lawyer. They're like, "Oh, you like to argue?" Or like, I'm like, "No, actually, that's not the type of law I do." If we're arguing, I'm probably not in the room, or something's gone very wrong. And just understanding that like there are significantly more opportunities for non-traditional career paths. And I hate even saying that because I've gotten into arguments with my alma mater about them calling like compliance like a JD advantage thing. But it's one of those things where again, like I am proud of the fact that I am an attorney. It has definitely helped open up doors. I have seen a lot of tremendous success in my career because of that legal training. And I do know that it carries weight. Like I know if people find out that I am a lawyer and I'm licensed, they're like, oh, okay, great. Like it automatically comes with like a certain amount of status. I will say I've had a lot of feedback from other lawyers question why I'm posting content on the internet, telling me that it's so risky and that, and there's valid, like there is some concern to that, right? Like, I mean, we have a nice little overview on our podcast that we always kick it off, right? With like hi, none of this is like regulatory advice. And, like Milo
We spent a lot of time coming up with that stupid phrase.
We did come up with a lot of just like the back and forth of what I exactly wanted that language to do. So feel free, for those of you that are starting a podcast or a channel or whatever, like listen to the first couple minutes of our podcast because we put it and stitch it on every single one. But it's important to me because again, I've also had other creators, especially in the finance space. I've had a lot of like CPAs and financial folks be like, oh, I'm legally not allowed to do that. I'm like, that's not true. I'm like, there are ways that you can protect yourself on the internet. 100%. I'm never going to claim that I'm somebody's lawyer on the internet. You do have to, make that very clear of like, hey, I'm representing myself and my own opinions. I think Alex, I know, does that really well with her own content that she's creating and everything. And it's coming from a place of, hi, I happen to be a lawyer. I can weigh in on this as a human being, as somebody with this like background, but I'm not representing, like I'm not providing legal advice on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's got to be a big challenge there. Obviously we touched on a lot of the negatives in that space, but I'm want to balance that out with talking about some of the positives, because you wouldn't keep doing this if there wasn't positives. So definitely want to better understand what you all are getting out of it and how you feel maybe you're contributing back. So we'll go in reverse order and start with you.
Yeah, for me, it's community, right? Like these are two incredible women that I've met through TikTok who like came up on my algorithm and I was like, oh man, such compelling content. Also, like maybe I can reach out to them and see if I can pull them into the HERS conference and then, bamboozle them into coming on to Social Asset Security. I'm fortunate I have the ability, like once you get to know me, I'm really hard to say no to. So I think that's also, it's probably why I'm a good lawyer, but it's these things of like, for me, it's been a really fun way to get to know other people in a professional sense that I was not anticipating at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like my TikTok feed for the most part is just a bunch of lawyers now, which is awesome. And it's people that like are sharing things that I'm like, oh shoot, I could learn some things, or, so it's become more of a professional platform for me than I was ever anticipating.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And there's some really incredible folks that I've met or followed on TikTok that now I'm like, they're super fan on LinkedIn. Like, so there's some other attorneys and stuff that have seen incredible success from posting regular content. And also we're actively encouraging other people to be like, hey, if you have interesting things to share, even if you're not anticipating it to lift up your career, you might be inspired by that change, because you never know, your clients might again be interacting with you, or if they're suddenly like, oh, I need somebody in compliance, like, oh, I'm going to reach out to Alex, or oh, hey, I'm going to check in with Milu, or
Hmm.
like coming up with this like unique group. It was amazing. There were a couple of other attorneys that I've also reached out to that were like, hey, I can't make this one, but I'll definitely be there on the next one. And so like there's this community again. I think lawyers, a lot of us, like, we're not used to, especially for in-house. Like, I've always been in-house. Like, I did big law in college when I was trying to figure out if I was going to be a lawyer, and I knew that that was not the way that I was going to go. So for me, I was usually just a team of one. You know what I mean? So I haven't even had the opportunity to work with many lawyers. So for me, it's been a really fun way to build community and also learn about how I can like lift up their companies and stuff and shout out. And again, this is like the easiest thing you can do is interact with their content, like it, repost it, jump in the comments. I feel like I'm tagging Alex and another gal, Chandler, on a very regular basis about being like, "Oh, hey, did you see that?" Like, because I'm committed. I'm like, "Hi," like I'm a tiny creator. For me again, this isn't for me necessarily the following. It's I'm getting education training. I also represent a lot of advertising companies at the moment, so I do a lot of ad tech, and so I'm doing a lot of this actually for due diligence for my clients, for my marketing teams, so that I am actually testing the platforms really with my own content. I'm brave enough to go do that, to being like, hey, if I'm accepting these terms and like I'm seeing what they're struggling with because they're having a hard time and their teams are like, it's a lot easier for me to be like, yes, I create content on these platforms and I understand how these things are. So for me, it's actually work.
Yeah, I like that. Cameron, how about for you? What are the main positives that you've gotten or you feel like you've given?
Yeah, I mean, retweet about the community. That to me is just, it's remarkable to be able to reach hundreds of millions of people across the world, the globe, in minutes, right? With social media. Maybe it's places you never would have met someone and you get access to them. I think that's amazing. Also, like, representation is everything. Like, showing other law students, kind of, we all kind of mentioned where there's law students that are like, how'd you get into this? Or I can do this with my law degree, or this is possible for me. I think that keeps me going. Like, I get so many law students that reach out about, I didn't know I can like build a social media following and then also be able to create content, then also be able to work with brands, but also be able to be a lawyer and practice and things like that, and kind of exposing the nuances of the legal profession. I'm so passionate about that because as someone who didn't want to go to law school or know anything about law school, like, I would have loved to see more of us online. So I'm loving that there's so many of us online and sharing our information. And then also there's like this invisible cloak behind law a lot of times, so I love that we can educate and put it in human layman's terms, a lot of these more complex situations, and just give it to our audiences to guide them so they make better decisions when it comes to either hiring a lawyer or just handling their businesses themselves.
Yeah, I like the accessibility aspect of that, where people are better able to understand it, but also making that career path more accessible. Like, oh wow, maybe I don't have to go to school for 20 years to be a lawyer. Maybe that is worthwhile. Or hey, I can go be a lawyer and do this other thing at the same time. Like, those are both really cool things. Um, I know, like you have art interests and are starting to marry that up with your lawyeriness
Yes.
to do both at the same time. And that's things that I love about my current job today, is that I have a heart for healthcare, and I'm able to do that as part of my IT marketing career now. Being able to marry two interests together has always been the most fascinating thing for me. Alex, how about you? What positives have you gotten out of it or given to others?
It's definitely the response from people who see my videos, um, when they ask whether they should go to law school. If they're telling me about, what position they're in and asking, should I do this or should I do this? And the fact that they even trust me enough to tell me these details, let alone they want my advice. Like, I'm just so glad that I have access to these people, or they have access to me, because I wish I knew what law school was before I went. I was so naive going into it, and everyone tells you, "Well, you can do anything with a law degree," which, like, yeah, you can, but it doesn't necessarily mean a law degree is going to be better for you. So being able to give people information about going to law school and what that practice can look like when you leave has just been really the best part for me, I think.
No, that's great. I love that. Um, So I kind of want to go back to the thought processes and how you all come up with content, and decide what you're going to put on, what you're not going to put on. Um, thinking through that internal monologue as you're deciding, should I do something about this? Um, your risk tolerance has to come into that, and we've talked a lot about risk today as well. Um, we talked about the political aspect of things. We talked about things like that. Are there ever situations you run into that are like, I probably shouldn't talk about this because I'm not an expert in this particular field, or situations where you say, hey, I know my audience, and my audience won't be interested in this thing, because sometimes some of the most interesting content I've seen out there these days are ones where people are crossing those boundaries and talking about something they're learning out loud, if you will. So just, I guess that's kind of the question is, what goes into whether you should or shouldn't do a topic from the perspective of your audience and from your own expertise. And I'll start with Cameron this time.
I think with this one, it is where I do consider that I have a law degree. Even though I'm not actively practicing, I do keep my license, because sometimes when we speak on things as lawyers, people automatically like have either like a higher critique, or they're like, oh, that's Bible. And it's like, whoa, slow down. I'm learning too. So like, if I'm not 100% sure about something, I may touch on it and then guide them to resources of trusted people that I know a little bit more about that. Because sometimes I feel like I'm in my bubble and I'm like, oh, everyone knows about this podcast or everyone knows about this person, and they don't. So sometimes just exposing them to like my community, my resources, referrals, and things like that, I've seen a lot of benefit there, where it's not putting the pressure on myself to be extremely educated on every topic, because I literally just can't. But it's allowing me to kind of put a light on other people and guide them to the right people. That has been really beneficial. And then sometimes it's kind of like, hey, y'all, I'm just not going to talk about it, and that's just what it is. Or I'm just uneducated about this. Or I'm going to butt my head a few times as I share about this and I learn about this, and I may get it wrong sometimes. So just being really honest, transparent, and authentic are things that I constantly am. So even when I get something wrong, it's like my audience knows, like, I'm going to be honest as much as I can. So when I get something wrong, it's like, I told you I wasn't sure. So there's no confusion there.
Yeah, being authentic. Mila?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think again for me, it's coming up with this mindset of like, I should be more strategic about the content that I post. I'll be the first to admit that. But again, for me, this is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to feel like work, as much as it is actually a lot of work to actually like create, like, Alex, truly, the amount of work that I feel like you must be doing on the prep of your video, like I'll watch them and I'm like, girl, I'm so impressed by the amount of background that you have. Like, you have read like all of the case law on like a very specific, and then I'm like fully in on it too, because I'm like, oh yeah, like she is putting work in. For me, it's like really just kind of spur of the moment content that I'm like, oh hey, like, like, oh, I'm doing this fun thing, or oh hey, let me just like sit and talk about like what's going on. And I think I'm kind of using it more as like kind of like a vlog, I guess, in that regards. And or I'll see something and I'll be like, oh sure, yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and try it. Again, I'm the first to admit here, like I'm testing this platform to figuring out, I'm learning out loud, I suppose, of just like I'm trying different things and seeing like, man, sometimes I'll post something and I'm like, oh, that's gonna get a lot of views, and I'm like, it got like 20, and I'm like, okay, and I don't take any of that to like heart or anything like that, because I also recognize to be creating content now is so much harder than it was 5 years ago. So like I already recognize the fact that I'm like, I'm way behind on the game. So for me, it's like, again, for me, it's strategic of like creating content that occasionally I can also push through to LinkedIn to get more impressions there, because that's really where my community is. That's really where my clients are, is, that's generally how they, if they're not word of mouth, they're probably finding me through LinkedIn. And so it's coming up with ways that I can create content that some of it I can share again on LinkedIn. I don't share all of it, but I also know that like I actively share that my TikTok is available, and so that they can go find it later. I have yet to have a client necessarily come up and be like, oh, LOL, I saw this video of you. And I'm sure that'll happen at some point, and I'll probably feel like the ick a little bit. Like there's nothing, I think, I've seen like somebody watching a video of me, that's really hard. I don't like that. Like if someone's like, oh, hey, like I'm watching, I'm like, no, this is like, I don't need to know that. Apparently this is a community experience. This is not just me.
Let me walk away first. Like,
Yeah.
let me just go over here. Why do I hear my voice coming from your phone? Please.
Exactly.
Yeah. definitely. So, Alex, Milo kind of called you out on having very thoughtful, very well put together content.
Very
Are
kind.
are you spending lots of time on each one, or you just flip it
It
on and
depends.
yeah?
It depends. A lot of the stuff I post, I don't spend much time on just because I don't have much time. But there are things that I will sit down and I like the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case. I printed
So
out
in on it.
like
It's
the
great.
pleadings. I have gone through, I've marked them all up like I was litigating the case myself. But then it always gets to a point where there's literally not enough hours of the day for me to keep up with that case. So I try and stay with my lane, stay in my lane, and I'll explain what the law is, but it's pretty rare for me to give like an opinion on who's going to win this case. Like, I don't know. I didn't go through every 273 trial exhibits. I didn't, sorry. I'm not going to give my opinion on that. But I'll tell you the breakdown of what their claims are about, and I'll give you the law and tell you what standards they have to meet to prove their claims. But I try and stay in my lane at least somewhat. I and I don't consider my audience much when I'm posting, at least on TikTok, because on TikTok for me it seems like my videos don't necessarily go to my followers anyway.
Hmm.
So I don't know who's going to see it. Like, I'm pretty sure at any time I post something political, and sorry I keep going back to that, but I know that that does not land on my follower pages. Um, and that's another like kind of risk element that I'm thinking about when I'm posting. Like, I don't know who's going to see this on TikTok, but I'm just going to stay in my lane. I'm going to say what the elements of this, charge are that the state needs to prove to convict this person or whatever it is, and that's it. I'm going to leave it at that. And sometimes, I'll get pushback arguing with me, "Oh, you're a lawyer. How can you think that? Or how could you say that?" And it's like, the Supreme Court even disagrees, right? Not every single lawyer thinks the same way. You can analyze things differently. So, audience isn't really a consideration of mine on TikTok, but it definitely is on Instagram, but that's really only more so because more people I know are following me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I get that like cringe feeling. Like, I actually had my CFO come up to me and he was like, "Ah, Alex, your TikTok came up on my For You page." And I swear I just like melted into I'm like, "Oh my God. Like, I don't want you watching my TikToks." That's so weird. But I think it's the nature of it. It's something you have to eventually get over. I don't know when that will happen for me, but I'm working on it.
I don't think it ever goes away, to be honest.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird position. It's a weird
Yeah.
world we live in today. Um, I want to talk a little bit about community as well. Speaking of community, if anybody that's watching has any questions, post them in the chat. We're watching it up on the screen up here, so would love to hear that. We got about 10 minutes. If you want to throw anything in there. But you all have mentioned community at some level, and that's been a big part of my journey professionally and personally as well as is building community. Not quite at the global scale or the wide visibility that you all have been doing, but definitely have met people around the world. Definitely been in a situation where I'm like, if I have to go to this place, I'll probably post it publicly and I'll probably find somebody I know there. Um, I don't do that as much anymore. That community is kind of scattered to other, is very based on a specific technology. And so as you all have talked about community, I feel like that's something worth digging into a little bit. And kind of how you've built that. Like, have you been purposeful in building that community? Have you been thoughtful about what community you want to build, or has it just happened very organically as you've gone along? So, Alex, let's start with you.
For me, it's been pretty organic. I haven't really thought about it so much. But I have been thinking about it more lately. And I kind of struggle between the two things I like posting about, which are like pop culture law issues and then talking to people who want to go to law school about the practice of law. And those aren't necessarily the same communities. So I feel like I should probably better define what my goals are or who I'm trying to reach. But so far, I feel like the community that I've built has been just very organic, and it has encapsulated people who come from both sides of those of the coin. So, yeah, it has not been thoughtful, but I feel like I should be thinking about it. And I
Yeah.
haven't used LinkedIn, and I know that I need to do that as well because I feel like the LinkedIn community is a much better community for professional purposes. But that's again where I struggle with the too many people I know are connected to me on LinkedIn, and I feel weird.
Well, but LinkedIn isn't necessarily of the community you described. Actually, both communities that
Sure.
you described, neither like I wouldn't necessarily think of LinkedIn as the first place for those that you would be able to access those people.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah. So,
Young people are not really on LinkedIn. I encourage
Yeah.
them to get on it all the time,
mhm.
but a lot of them are like, they find it like a scary platform.
Yeah. I mean, when you're first entering the workforce, like all these professionals hanging out the way that they are, um, can be intimidating. I mean, we all had that first day of going into the office and working with a bunch of people that are twice our age and being completely intimidated by that. So yeah, I can see where they hesitate to that. But even at least one of my daughters has a LinkedIn account, and none of them are really in the kind of professional communities that we are, is quite as much that way. So
LinkedIn
Cameron,
to me
how
also just feels like the content itself has to be more buttoned up and more, it feels like I need to deliver things differently on LinkedIn than I would on TikTok or Instagram and put more kind of thought and make it sound more professional or look more professional or whatever the case may be. Which again
Girl, you
may be
I
very well in my own head.
Yeah, I would say that I feel like that's changed over the years. I would say that I'm seeing more people I work with or have worked with in the past just, hey, I just got off the plane and I'm holding the phone up in front of my face as I walk through the airport to go get my bag. Um, Now, did they prepare ahead of time for that? Probably. But it doesn't have to be high quality. It doesn't have to be necessarily the most buttoned together reading the script type of a situation. So yeah, I think it's personality matters a lot in that regard, and some people could pull that off while others maybe can't. Cameron, how about you? How do you view your community? How's it come to be?
Yeah, super organic. Super organic. Until I started my business account, I think a lot more about, but my personal brand is like whoever is interested, welcome. We're glad you're here. I think about it sometimes, but not really. I think more about the types of content, like we are talking about, like LinkedIn. I do feel like I do have to be a little bit more buttoned up over there, but I post everything across the board for the most part. But I do feel like TikTok specifically has its own type of genre of content. Like TikTok is like probably the rawest, realest form that most people create on. And sometimes I do feel like the way the content communicates there to Instagram, to LinkedIn, to YouTube is different. So there are some pieces of content where I'm like, the community on TikTok will get this, no one else will understand. No one else will even understand what we're talking about, especially if it's like a trend or something. But just in general, I do think there's a difference there with my community. But as far as like thinking about who I'm trying to speak to, not a ton. I have like 3 categories of people, but they all kind of vary depending on like the season I'm in as well.
Yeah, your own personal thoughts and what you're thinking about at that time definitely plays a big part. In fact, I've
For sure.
found creating content outside of that mindset really, really challenging sometimes. Like, yeah, I'm not really caring about that right now, so let's go do this other thing instead that I do care about right now. How about you, Mila?
I mean, I think for me, again, I've taken away a couple of like mentorship opportunities and like have had the ability to actually like truly like one gift somebody LinkedIn Premium because they were interacting with a live. And I was like, hey, why don't you get back on LinkedIn? And they were like, oh, I don't know if that platform is for me. And I was like, hey, it really is. Like, you need to be there. And so she did. And I was like, I was like, message me. I'll be one of your first connections. And she did. And I was like, hey, here you go. I can give you LinkedIn Premium for 3 months just because you reached out. And I'm able to like gift that through the platform.
Mm.
And so like that already set her up. And then, having these like unique opportunities to actually like engage with students is like one of my favorite things. And I mean, I'm fortunate. In law school, I was a research assistant and like built out the corporate compliance program at University of Richmond, and I do lecture annually with that course. And so I come in as a subject matter expert, and then my main takeaway is usually like we talk about how to get a job, but I also encourage law students of how they can actually reach out to professionals on a platform like LinkedIn. I think TikTok is another one they should absolutely start engaging with certain content creators on, but realizing, like it takes a DM for me to have time from somebody like Cameron and Alex to make out of their busy schedules to be like, yeah, no, of course, I would love to sit and talk on the internet with you for an hour. And, and it's very clear that I'm like, no, the amount of like organic, like community that I'm building on TikTok, whether or not I'm getting any level of views, for me, that really doesn't matter. For me, it's I'm meeting interesting folks in a way that's very different than me meeting them on LinkedIn and just like a random connection request. So different that, I see Alex's videos pop up and I'm like, heck yes, like I'm going to jump in on all of them. And Cameron, the same thing. Like I'll jump in and interact with them because I also know that as a creator, that's actually the most beneficial thing you can do. I mean, Brian and I, we don't ask for views or likes and follows as much as we should. I think we're both kind of shy about it, but we're like,
We're trying.
podcast. We're like, we're like, hey, we're trying to get better about being like, like, subscribe, follow us. I've probably personally on my parents' phones, I've definitely like logged in and been like, and now you're subscribed. But it's this thing of, being open to the fact I am not embarrassed to say that I'm a content creator. I actually know that it creates different opportunity for me. And I think it adds flavor to my brand. I think it creates this more like personal relationship that my clients, I hope, can understand that I am also just like having fun on the internet. And again, a lot of them, it's because I'm learning stuff for them. It's because I'm working with their marketing teams on some really tough, like regulatory compliance stuff. And I'm like, I know I'm a better lawyer because I'm actually putting myself out there and testing the platforms that I'm then supposed to help them defend and protect from a privacy perspective is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that as I've created content in the past, it has to be something you enjoy. And I've heard all three of you say that it's, I'm doing it for fun before anything else really. And, if you're interested in getting into content creation and being an influencer, and, Mila and I have talked multiple times about wanting to go to more conferences as influencers rather than having to go work a booth, which is the main way I get there. It has to be fun. It has to be something you enjoy because, doing 2 years of a podcast where you do it every single week takes dedication. And if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to dedicate yourself to it. So I, for one, appreciate not really watching any of your feeds on a regular basis. I appreciate what you're doing because it is providing a good educational resource, and I know it's hard work. So I do appreciate that. To that end, we are at the end. I want to make sure, since we have talked about multiple different platforms, I know that whether you're watching this live or you're watching this after the fact, we'll make sure that the links they're all there and able for you to easily get a hold of. But I want to give a chance for all three of you to kind of talk about which platforms you're on, how people can find you on those platforms. So Cameron, let's start with you.
Absolutely. This was great. Thank y'all so much for having me. You can find me across all social media platforms. Cameron Monet. It's Cameron with a K, Monet like the painter. And if you want to follow my startup journey, follow us on Social Docket. It's my startup company, and we would love to have you. My DMs are open across the board. Send me an email. I'd love to connect. If you guys have questions, comments, concern, I'm here to be a resource.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron.
And Alex?
You can find me at Alexandra L. Mack on TikTok, and Instagram, and maybe LinkedIn soon. Maybe I'll start posting there. But thank you guys for having me. It's been so fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah. And again, for me, I'm Milu. I'm creative compliance officer. You can find me at Compliance Council. That's usually my main platform. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and then I have a podcast called Socializing Security. And I will say one of the things that Brian and I don't do well is reposting our content on TikTok and Instagram. So, for the most part, our platform, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music, or anywhere you listen to your podcast, as well as then we're also on YouTube and LinkedIn. We actually get most of our interactions with folks folks on LinkedIn. So Alex, 100%, I would actively encourage you. LinkedIn is kind of an untapped market. So there's not a lot of us actually creating content that, and again, your viewers are sitting there just like most people have LinkedIn open like all day on their phones or their computers while they're at work. So it's a unique one. And actually our podcast was inspired by LinkedIn.
Yeah, it started from a conversation happening on LinkedIn. So I guess we have to live and die there.
Yeah, for sure. Proudly sponsored by LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, maybe
One day.
Cool. Well, Cameron, Alex, thank you for joining us. This was
Thank
this
you,
was a fun
guys.
conversation.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for being here at HERS. We're so excited. I'm looking forward to having y'all on Socializing Security so we can really learn more about what your individual journeys are. So you'll hear from them soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Socializing Security. We hope you learned a thing or two with us.
If you'd like to continue socializing with us on this topic or have feedback, we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn or social media. Just search for Socializing Security. Or you can email us at info@socializingsecurity.com.
Until next time, stay social and stay secure.